Hello folks, how you doing? And Merry Christmas. I hope you're all having a great Christmas season. I hope you're all enjoying your sims. I know I am. I've got Automobilista 2's running really well for me. Assetto Corsa Composizione's running nicely. R-Factor 2, it's all good. I know we're all really looking forward to the new update that's going to drop right at the end of December, so hopefully sometime around New Year's Eve, and that is Racing USA Part 3, I believe, for Automobilista 2 by Reza Studios, which I'm sure will come with, that update will come with loads of improvements as well as the new tracks and cars. But I wanted to make this video because since the update that was, the game-changing update that was 1.3, and of course we're now, of Automobilista 2, of course we're now much further on from that. Since that update dropped, up until now, everyone I think is in pretty much agreement that all of the cars have improved, everything's improved. However, I have seen during the period since then until now, a lot of posts on the Reza forums and also on the Facebook group for Automobilista 2, and in servers that I've been on, people have been saying everything's great, but what's happened to the GTE cars specifically? I've seen people posting things like, and I'm sure actually I did see a post from, I hope you don't mind me mentioning you, mate, Nemesis 69, who was consistently one of the fastest drivers in Automobilista 2. I think I saw him and a few other people post, you know, what's happened to the GTE cars. We're going out, we're doing 5 or 6 laps and our tyres are going off. They're just completely going off. And I thought I'd look into that, and it's led to some discoveries. It's led me to actually discovering how absolutely amazing Automobilista 2 really can be. In fact, it's blown me away how amazing it is. So, I got to thinking, this, you know, after the last update, the new Racing USA pack came out. We got the 2 new tracks, Watkins Glen and Cleveland. And people have been using those tracks a lot with the GTE cars as well, because the GTE cars are just generally very popular. But these are American tracks, and a lot of people are going to run servers, use, or even if they're offline, a lot of people are going to go straight for the best conditions, and probably put the date at default or sometime during the summer. And of course, it's quite hot in America, and I wondered if it's got anything to do with temperature. And in short, it's all to do with tyre temperature. So that's the conclusion of the video if you want that now. But if you want to see, I want to show you how this just amazing environment system reacts, or how the car and the car tyres react to the environment system. It's absolutely amazing. I want you to see that in real time, so please bear with me. To show you this, I'm going to use an American track. I'm not using one of the brand new tracks, simply because I'm using an American track, which is Virginia, but I'm using this version of the track, which is the short version of the track, simply because you're constantly cornering on this track. It's just corners and corners and corners. So you're really heating those tyres up and putting a lot of pressure on the tyres. But there's still places on this track where you can get fast enough to cool them down again with things like opening vents. So that's why I'm using this track. Now, this is another thing that I love about Automobilista 2 so much, because of the time of year you can set in this sim, which I can't think of any other sim that really does it as well as Automobilista 2, maybe Project Cars, but we won't mention that. You can set it to any time of year, so you really can get some extreme temperatures. So what I did a bit of research, and I found out that one of the hottest days over in the States, particularly in Virginia, was the 22nd of July 2011. So I thought I'll punch that date into here and see if it's got the historic weather for that. Also, I've noticed that the time of day that you go to a track really affects things like temperature. So for instance, if you go to a track at 7 o'clock in the morning, it's going to be quite cool, but midday it's going to be a lot hotter, and then if the sun's beaten down from midday until say 4 in the afternoon, which I've got my time set to here, you've had 4 hours of sun beating down the track, and it gets even hotter. So that's the time we're going out. If you want to recreate this test, you can copy down all of my settings. I'm not using any accelerated tyre wear, by the way, for this. It's on normal tyre wear. I was going to use ×5, but I don't need to because it's besides the point. It really is much more about temperature. So we're going to use a one weather slot, which is going to be clear and sunny. So it's hot as can be. And we're going out on a live track preset of green. So there's a little rubber down on the track as possible. So we'll save that. And we're going to use the Chevrolet Corvette. Because the Chevrolet Corvette, it's got a weight distribution which is further to the rear. It's rear-wheel drive. It's likely to wear this car is likely to wear the rear tyres faster than the fronts, whereas something like the BMW here, with its weight distribution engine at the front, even though it's rear-wheel drive, you get more of an even wear across it. You will, depending on how you've got it set up, wear the tyres out at the rear slightly quicker than you will on the front with this car. And that's going to give me an opportunity to show you in a video visually what happens when those tyres go. So let's load up our track. Whilst I do load up the track, I want to say a quick thank you to and Merry Christmas to all of you who have subscribed to my channel over the last year. You've got me to over 500 subscribers. I love you. I'm sorry I haven't replied to all of the comments. I will try and get around them on the videos, but thank you so much. And if you're watching and you're not subscribed, if you take a second to subscribe to my channel, I'd really appreciate that. Really helps out. Right, so here we are at our track, and as I said, the date that I looked up was quite hot in America. So if we look at the top of our screen, there we go. You can see at the top of where it gives us our description of the track: weather, wetness, wind, ambient temperature. Ambient temperature is at 28 degrees. So it's a hot day there, but the track temperature, look at that. Track temperature is at 57 degrees. That is some toasty tarmac. That is hot tarmac. So we've got really hot tarmac. What we're going to do is come into our setup here. Now, I'd seen, let's just make sure I'm on defaults or reset that to defaults. I'd noticed that a lot of people were only talking about the GTE cars when it came to this problem. And with the GTE cars, we've got the option of soft slicks, medium slicks, hard slicks, and wet slicks, which is more than, you know, a lot of cars in the sim. But also, I was wondering why this wasn't why people weren't saying this about maybe the F1 cars that use soft tyres, or GT3s or other cars. Maybe it's because the soft slicks on the GTE cars are just really, really soft compared to other cars. I don't know. But that's my theory. Anyway, I'm going to make sure that we're on soft slicks, and we're going to go to our drivetrain, and we're going to take off the traction control so I can really push those rear tyres. And to exacerbate, this is really important here, to exacerbate the heating effect, remember we've got 57 degrees on the track, and this car, or this class of car, uses tyre warmers. So as soon as we start, the tyres will already be at optimum temperature, which is somewhere around 60-65 degrees. What we're going to do to exacerbate that heating effect, with the brake ducts, now the brake ducts mainly will control how cool or hot your brakes get, but the brakes are the brakes are the things in closest proximity to the tyres, and they generate a lot of heat. Also, those vents go over the tyres as well as the brakes. So the brake ducting does actually have an effect on your tyre temperatures, not to the same degree as the brakes, because obviously the air is designed to be more directed to the brakes, but it does have an effect. So we're going to close off. We're going to use 0% rear ducting on the rear to keep the heat in there. And we're going to completely open up the vents out the front to try and keep those tyres as cool as possible. And I know this track well. I can drive it consistently. So I'm going to try and do a few laps, braking at the same point, accelerating at the same point, and just drive normally, but push the car a bit. And we're going to see what happens. Now remember, we're not using accelerated tyre wear or anything like that, but we have got a really hot track. And you'll see my tyre widget at the bottom left hand corner of your screen when I get in the car. So here we go. There you go. You can see it's down there in green. Our tyres are all at around 72 degrees all round. keep an eye on those, especially the rear left, because this track really puts a lot of pressure on that particular wheel. I'll turn my headphones down a bit. And let's get out there, and with this extreme temperature, let's see how long it is before our rear tyres go off to the point that it makes the car uncontrollable. So, now whilst we're going round, keep an eye on those temperatures. They're going to go up. They're going to go up because this track is very hot. But whilst we're going around, I'll just say maybe I'm so impressed by this, because before I was really into Automobilista 2, I was mainly into R Factor 2. Now, track temperature does not, in R Factor 2, does not translate through to the tyres. It doesn't work. Hopefully one day it will. But you can set the track temperature or the temperature, ambient temperature, to whatever you like, and every time you get to the track it always stays the same at about 21 degrees or something like that. So maybe that's why I'm so impressed. I have tried this in ACC, and ACC transmits the temperature from the track to the tyres very well, but it just doesn't have, because you can't go for different times of year and different seasons, you just don't get the same extremes, temperature extremes, as you can in Automobilista 2. So we're already up to 88 degrees on that back left rear. 87. Now braking at the number 3 board there. Gradually accelerating out of the corner here. And so we're on our first time lap after the out lap. Okay. Like I said, with Aesthetic Auto Composición, it does it quite well, but I think the lowest temperature you can have is something like 11 or 15 degrees track temperature, something like that. And I think it only goes about as high as, I don't know, 35 or 37 degrees. Whereas, as you can see with Automobilista 2, on this hot summer's day, we've got a temperature of 57 degrees on the track. So, once we get out of this last corner, which I'm going to full throttle out of, we'll have a look at our tyre temperatures once again. So braking for the apex and full throttle out of the last corner. We are now at 101 degrees on the rear left. You can see that down in the corner there, and the temperatures, every time it gets a chance, you get a chance to have a straight where you can cool it with those vents. It's not going to lose heat too quickly because those vents on the rear are closed. And already, we're at 101 already, I can feel the back end, when I'm taking a right-handed corner, start to slide a little bit because those tyre temperatures are starting to get out of optimal range. So this shouldn't take too long. You can see all my throttle and brake inputs on the tachometer over here. Braking at the number 3 board there. Here we come. And we're now at 104 degrees, and we've got wear on that outside, that rear left already. Remember, we're only on lap number 2 after our out lap. Now up to 105. So braking for the apex and full throttle out the last corner, and we're up to 108. 109. We are really starting to get outside of optimal tyre temperature, and we're getting wear as well, because of course soft tyres wear a lot quicker than, say, mediums or hards. Okay, around we go, gradually accelerating out. Oh! And yeah, it's oh, there we go. And we've spun. So our tyres are already going off. Of course, after you spin once, and that really heats the tyres up even more. So so that exacerbates the effect. And we're at 114 now. 114 on that left rear. And I can't help myself. I'm already trying to drive a little bit more cautiously, but the back end, yeah. I mean, will we get around this last corner? Or I've taken off a lot of accelerator from what I was using before to get round there. Okay, and oh, okay. Dangerously hot, and of course we've spun and it's heated up even more. We are now at nearly 120 degrees on that rear left. And you might be thinking at the moment, that's really obvious, Tarmac, why are you telling us this? Bear with me. So, we've just come into the start of lap 4, and if I put my foot down now, we're just going to spin, because that tyre is cooked. It's absolutely cooked. It's the most worn tyre, but it's not so much down at the wear, it's down to the temperature. It's absolutely cooked because it's on a baking hot track. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to restart the session so the lap counter goes back down to 0. Remember, we just started lap 4, only just started it there. Now, what we're going to do, the only thing we're going to change, remember on a default setup apart from the traction control and the ducting. Now, this isn't going to make a huge difference, but it's going to make a substantial difference. We're going to open those rear ducts right up. So they're now open. We've got a lot more cooling on the brakes and a little bit more cooling on the tyre. See how far we get, shall we? And I'm going to try and drive consistently again. Use the same braking points. Try and drive as close as I can to how I just did the last few laps. So gradually accelerating it out of the corner. And we're going to see how we get on. I do love Virginia, by the way. Awesome track. Okay, so our tyre temperatures are already going up. But we should, making it the 3 board there, we should notice that because those vents are now open at the back as well as the front, we should get more equal wear. I'm thinking the backs are still going to get hotter than the fronts, but not to the same degree. So there we go. And let's see how hot they are after our first lap. So I think they were about 88 degrees last time round, full throttle out of the corner. And that rear left at about here last time round was at about 88. Oh, we're at 91. That's interesting. Maybe I've just driven slightly differently this time. But what I'm expecting to find is that's a small fluctuation. I'm expecting not to get as hot and not to retain the heat as much. And this is why I've got to show you this in real time. I just want you to see this happening. And then I'm going to show you something else, which is really amazing about Automobilista 2. Because you might be thinking, well, fair enough, but what's the solution? What can you do to combat the tyres going off due to temperature? Well, you could, of course, drive like you were and pretend you were giving a taxi fare to Mr. Glass and drive as cautiously as possible so as to not overheat those rear tyres, but that would just be boring. So what you can do is do things like open up your vents, get more cooling in there. You can do things like reducing tow. You tow in and tow out on fronts and rears, because the more tow you've got, the more tyre wear, but also the more heat it will generate. Now look, we're on our second lap and we're at 96 degrees now on that rear tyre. It hasn't risen up too much. Now last time round we were at something like 101. That's a difference, isn't it? So gradually accelerating out of the corner. And you're going to see just what an effect just changing those vents has. I think also maybe, especially in qualifying, when people go out on service, especially if the track's hot, they will close down their vents quite a bit to gain some aerodynamics and reduce drag. If you've got really, really soft slicks on a really hot track, that's a bad idea. Another thing you could do to reduce rear tyre wear is possibly move your brake bias a bit forward, although that is going to have an effect on your handling, but if your tyres are off, that doesn't really matter. Full throttle out of the corner, and we're now at 100 degrees. 101, but that's taken, we're now entering lap 3. We did that at the start of lap 2, or on lap 2 last time. So, another thing you could do is loosen up your back diff, because the tighter the diff is, the more the two rear wheels are fighting each other. The looser the diff, they're allowed to move more independently of each other. So that'll be another thing that you can do to reduce rear tyre wear. So, once we get out of these two tight corners here, I can have another look down at our tyre temperatures. 101. And nowhere near as much wear as we picked up last time round. So remember, we had spun before we started lap 4 last time round. We're now coming round to start lap 4, and we've not spun, not once. And I'm driving as close to standard as I was last time. Full pelt out of the corner there. 103 on the rear. Oh, 104 it's just gone up to. Okay, now going back down again. But here we go, we're now into lap 4. And I am experiencing nowhere near kind of that little bit loose on the back end. But we were loose on the back end by the second lap. So, what's the point of all of this? Well, the other thing you can do to, if you're out at a hot track with soft tyres, use your soft tyres, open your vents to keep them cool, but use them as your qualifying tyres. And then when you go for the race, especially if it's a long race, make those tyres mediums. You don't even have to go hard, you can go hard if you like, but make them mediums or hards, because the harder the tyre compound, the less heat they generally retain, or they don't get quite as hot as soft slicks, and also less wear. Now look, we are about to finish lap 4, and I'm going to finish the test there and then show you something else which is just absolutely amazing about this wonderful sim. And look, full throttle out that corner again, no problems, and all we did was open those vents a bit. We ended up with our tyre temperatures on that left rear at nearly 120 degrees, and now look, 97 on the rear it's just dropped down to. That's because we stopped, but we finished at around 100 and something. Nowhere near as hot, not losing control. That's just through the vents. Now, watch this. Okay, and this is where it comes down to choosing the right tyre for the right environment. We're going to leave Virginia Raceway there in the summer, and we're going to change our date, and we're going to bring it right up to date, in fact. So 2021, which we're still just barely in, and it's quite cool here at the moment because we're still in December. It's starting to warm up just a little bit since Christmas Day, but leading up to Christmas Day, it got as cold as it was going to get, I think. So let's go for early on in December. Let's go for December the 8th. Okay. We're going to set our time to 9 o'clock in the morning. So the track should be a lot cooler. And we're also going to give ourselves an overcast cloud cover, so there's not sun beating down the track. We're still on everything else is the same. We're still on the live track preset of green. Right, so with that all done, let's just check we've saved that. Yes. So now we're going to go and see the track as, or closer to how it would be now. This is what I love about Automobilista 2. We're going to see the trees with no leaves on them, the winter time. But the main thing to look at, first of all, if we look at the top of our screen, is what those track temperatures are. And look at that. An ambient temperature of 5 degrees Celsius and a track temperature of only 10 degrees Celsius. 10 degrees. That's literally about 47 degrees cooler than when we went out last time. Right, so let's get to it. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to keep exactly the same setup, okay? And I'm going to go to advanced setup a bit. We're still on our soft slicks, but the track is a hell of a lot cooler. It's so cool, I'm actually going to completely reduce our ducting. Or actually, you know what, I'll take our ducting to the default levels. Okay? No, let's reduce. Let's give it no cooling whatsoever. I really want to prove this. So there we go, and there we go. Our tyre temperatures are already pre-warmed to around 70 odd degrees. Now, I'm now expecting on this incredibly cool track for them not to get too much hotter than that. So I'll try and drive as I was last time. You've got to remember, the track is cooler, so that's going to slightly change things. But what I'm trying to prove here is that for this time of year and this temperature, softs are absolutely perfect, even for a race. Because I've just had a quick glance at the tyre temperatures there, and I think they're actually decreasing already on the fronts. Yeah, they are. Our front right is at 63 degrees. We started off at just over 70. And this is exactly why I wanted to show you this in real time. Just keep an eye on those tyre temperatures. Full throttle out the last corner. Let's have a look at our tyres. Our rear left is at 73 degrees, 88 to 90 during those quick summer tests we just did by the first lap. Oh, and I've slightly mucked up the corner there. There's me trying to drive consistently. Don't worry, I'll keep it as consistent as I can from now on. Now, I'm not going to carry on doing loads of laps, because I can tell you, and you've probably, yeah, of course you've already guessed it, that I could drive on this track now with these tyres in these conditions all day long until the tyres wore out completely, and not experience temperatures which get so far out of optimal range due to too much heat. Okay, so we've done our out lap. This is our first time lap. So it's our second lap. We're coming out full pelt, and our brakes are getting a bit hot at the front, but look at our rear tyre there. 73 degrees. That's about what we started on. And I'm even forgetting my braking distances at the end there, but because I'm stopping concentrating, but this is what I'm trying to show you. Those temperatures, I guarantee you will, if you go and do this test yourself, they're not going to change. They're not going to get much higher than that. Okay? And it's just find it amazing the amount of cause and effect that is going on in Automobilista 2 and how things. I've always been impressed by that with setups, engine temperatures, tyre temperatures. Anyway, for those of you struggling with the GTE cars, it's all down to your tyre temps. So basically, if you go out to a track, check your temperature, you track temperatures. If it's a bit hot, maybe think about opening some vents, lowering toes, or maybe, you know, just use mediums for the race. Anyway, I hope that's helped. Maybe you disagree, maybe you think I'm completely wrong, or you partly agree, but you've got something else to add. Please tell me what you think in the comments. But once again, thank you to Reza Studios for all the hard work you've done this year. Really looking forward to next year, Racing USA Part 3, and everything you've got to throw at us, because you've done an amazing job. And thank you again to all my subscribers, by the way, and Merry Christmas and happy sim racing. So, by the way, as I mentioned earlier on in the video, if you want this channel to survive, do me a favor and hit subscribe. May seem like a small thing to do, but it enables me to make more videos for you. By hitting that button, you can help us thrive. Let's keep this channel alive. Don't cost nothing, don't take no time. Come on now, keep this channel alive.